Welcome to The Dead Life. Here's world-renowned medium, Allison Dubois.
Welcome back to The Dead Life, where we're answering part 2 of last week's call-in episode. If you missed part 1, check it out at thedeadlifepodcast.com, YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. Joe's back to thrill us with his sounding board capabilities. To book a reading with me, email us at booking@allisondubois.com. If you want to watch past and present episodes of The Dead Life, follow me on YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram at Medium Allison and check out divination22.com to find out where to purchase my intention setting vodka. Well, Joe, welcome back. Let's get right into those call-ins.
All right, here we go.
Hi, Allison. My name is Kathy. My daughter, 30 years old, died 10 months ago, and she's been visiting me, and she physically moves things. The greatest experience I had was 2 days after she passed away, and I was in my bed. I got up in the morning. I made my bed. I went to go shower, and I came back, and the bed was pulled back. Well, ironically, like 5 days before that, before she passed, I said, Lauren, do you want me to get in the bed with you in the hospital bed? And she says, yes, Mommy, but I couldn't fit because there were so many wires from her kidney and her livers and all that kind of stuff. And so I felt like when I walked back into the bedroom, the covers were pulled back, that she was with me. She says, okay, Mommy, now you can hug on me and crawl into bed with me. So, you know, as far as spirits moving physical things, I wanted to get your take on that. Thank you so much for helping so many people. Bye.
Well, first of all, we love you, Kathy. She almost brought me to tears.
Yeah,
because one of our oldest daughter, Aurora, would be the same age.
Yeah, and it's just not. I mean, there's something unnatural.
It's unimaginable. Yeah. Absolutely. This is Lauren, your daughter. And the only person who would have understood the importance of the bedding being pulled back so that you could get into bed with her would be you and her.
Right.
So they're very careful and premeditated in their signs, in that it's specific to those two people, you know, and it not being something that would mean anything to anyone else. So the fact that she couldn't get into bed with her when she had all of the wires and the levers around her, and her being able to move the bedding, I see things like that all the time. That the dead can manipulate objects and move them. So, I mean, I bring them through all the time and they talk about it, and they move things that you would never think, like your dad, your very heavy gold MIT ring from your dad that ended up in some box in the closet somehow where it had never been put. And you ended up finding it on the anniversary of his death or on your birthday or like some pivotal day.
That was crazy.
Right.
It's a substantial ring, but that box, how it got in that box makes no sense. Yeah.
So they do these things all the time. The bedding was specific to you, Kathy, and your daughter, Lauren. And I'm just so happy that you received that sign from her and that it brought hopefully some warmth and some peace to you in that moment. And at bedtime every night, you can pull the covers back and be like, jump in, you know, go ahead and jump in. You know, I need my buddy, and you'll start to feel her presence around you more and more, especially when she knows her presence brings you comfort and not pain.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's such an important message that you give, that the more you accept the message and less you question it, and the more you feel good that they're there, the more they can come.
Well, the more frequently they'll come through, because they have energy on coming through, knowing that you're going to understand that it is them and that they're not hurting you by doing it.
And if you feel like it could be, it is. You don't have to question it too much.
If your soul recognizes their soul, you don't need someone else to confirm that information. Your soul, even with our living children, we can be in a room, you could have multiple kids, and when one walks in behind you and puts their hand over your eyes or just is standing behind you, you can feel the lurking of a particular child.
We're not all you, Allison.
Come on. Okay. Well, I maybe moms are just particularly good at that.
Built that way, yeah.
But your soul recognizes their source, their energy source. You can feel it.
I can share this with the audience that, and this happens, it seems like almost daily. We have 3 daughters, and if we talk about one of them, or if we talk about one of them with one of the other ones, they'll call. Like the one we're talking about, they'll call on the phone and be just like, "Hey, how's it going?" It's
like exactly the second we're talking about them, like somebody's talking behind their back. What's going on? It's actually comical to us now because
it is kind of funny.
All of them are so good at sensing when they're being talked about, and they're like, I have to call mom or dad or text them and see what's up.
So when I say we're not all like you, I just basically mean I'm not like you. The other 3 are.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I love it. I love having.
Maybe we can get you to be more like us in time. We try.
Yeah, I could teach you calculus too.
Okay. You tried. You're the only reason I passed my math final in college. Are you kidding me? Calculus. That was horrible. Like I never used it in my whole life. See, 15-year-old me was right. Didn't need it. Didn't need it at all.
No.
It's fine. Makes you more well-rounded. Isn't that what they say?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so let's go to the next call in. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that with us.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a fairly new listener. I had a life question. I am a foster parent who also adopts. And I had a question about when loss, I guess. I firmly believe in reunification, but this case I'm specifically just having a hard time with. We picked her up from the hospital as a brand new baby. We were told they wanted us to adopt her. She was with us for almost 2 years, and her parents' rights were severed, and all of a sudden she was placed elsewhere with family, which is great, but I am just having such a hard time trying to grieve loss because the family does not want contact with us. And it feels like the death of a person, but she's alive. And so I guess my question, because I'm fairly new to this whole world that I firmly now believe in, is can I feel her, or can I get senses of her even if she's alive? My heart just is like shattered and broken, and I just don't know how to process life without her. But also, she's alive. So it's complicated. Anyway, I appreciate you considering taking the time answering my question. I hope you have a great day.
First of all, Crystal is such a giving person. I mean, to
absolutely.
give that, you could hear the other child in the background while she was leaving the message. And she's pretty much turned over her life to helping children. And so we all appreciate that. And I can understand the loss that a foster parent or somebody who is waiting for a baby to be born to adopt it and then the mother changes its mind. And
Heartbreaking.
and in this case, it wasn't even the parents, it was the extended family of the parents that decided that they wanted the child. And, you know, I can understand that, although they were trying to keep the child in the, you know, biological family, which a lot of people would want to do. I could understand her grief and her feeling the loss,
especially if she had a special connection with the child.
Well, and they picked it up from the hospital when it was born, you know, as a baby. And so you're the one that's been there for every cry, every nightmare, you know, for 2 years, the person that they smiled at, how could they not win your heart and make it impossible to forget them or to let them go? So yes, it is possible for you, Crystal, to sense the child, even though the child is alive, as we were just actually talking about, you know, how when our kids are around, I can feel them. If they're in my area, even if I'm in a mall, I'll radar in on them.
Yes,
and I'm like, I felt you. So it doesn't surprise me that she feels that strong connection. And I'll say that child will sense that something's missing in their life. And Crystal, don't be surprised if that child comes looking for you later in life, because you were there for the first 2 years and it knows your energy and your voice and your mannerisms and your temperament and your smile. And that's what that child knew. I'm sure that when it went to live with the extended family, it cried something awful, wanting its mom, which is Crystal. So I think it's a mutual grief between the Crystal and her family and that child in trying to let go. I think what could help me is saying a prayer every day that child's safe and that they're happy, and then to try and visualize the happy things that they might be out there doing. And I'd pray for the love around that child and that they get more than they can even handle because so many people love them. I think putting my pain into that kind of a constructive prayer would really be helpful to me in trying to navigate the grief. I don't know if that would help Crystal. I would still consider that child as one of your own children. And I would know that one day that child will come back looking for me. And when it does, that you'll be there and keep every little thing, every little picture of them in a box, so that when they show up, you can just grab that box and say, I've been waiting for this day for 18 years, you know, or however many years it takes. But I know that grief goes both ways between Crystal and the baby. And I'm so sorry that she has to go through that. And every foster parent risks their heart being broken every time they take a child in. So I see the sacrifice that they give as enormous, that you would have to risk your heart every time you agree to help a child that you feel compelled to help and to take in.
That's really eye-opening. I'd never thought about it that way, but you're right. As fulfilling as it is, it's also heartbreaking because you may never see many of these children again.
Right. So thank you for calling in, Crystal.
Yes,
I hope
you.
that helps.
Okay.
Hi, Allison. Hi, Sophia. This is Angie calling from Los Angeles, California. I'm calling because I have a couple questions. I'm just trying to figure something out. So about 4 years ago, in my mind's eye, if that's how we want to say it or call it, I can see my grandfather sitting in grass and my kids running around him, and he's wearing his favorite poncho. And I got the sense that we're at a funeral, and honestly did not think anything of it because we were attending a funeral in Virginia. Come the day we're supposed to leave for the funeral, the day before, my two little ones break out with fever. It's during COVID. I'm like, we can't travel. I stay behind. My husband goes. That morning that we were supposed to travel, I get a phone call that my grandfather fell. He lives around the corner. I go to the house, and it was just different. He was laid out, CPR is being performed. I can tell that was it. There was no coming back from it. Through the corner of my eye, I can see him standing at his feet. Week later, he passed on his own. There was no more brain activity. I don't understand how I did not put this, 2 and 2 together, that I see him, I see my kids, I know we're at a cemetery, but how did I not realize that it was for him and not for the funeral we were attending? Back in October of 2024, it was on a Monday, I opened my Pinterest, and out of nowhere, there's this picture of Jesus, and there's babies all around him, and he is holding one. Not close up, just looking down at him, at arm's length. And I pondered and I pondered and I pondered on this picture. What does this mean? What does this mean? I knew it meant something. The very next day, about 5:30 in the evening, I get a phone call from my sister in hysterics. My great nephew, my first and only great nephew, her grandson, had fallen in the pool and drowned. It had been about 20 minutes that they were performing CPR. Eventually, they got a heartbeat. Were able to get him back. I'm sorry, this is difficult to talk about, and I know it's difficult to hear. That was the very next day from that Pinterest picture that I saw. 10 days later, I received another picture on my Pinterest, but now Jesus is holding the baby.
And that's the end of the message.
Right. So it had cut off.
Yes. 3 minutes is the limit. If people leave a message, 3 minutes is the limit.
So what was the name? Look at your paper that I wrote all the details on.
You said grandfather died and then the great nephew.
So there's no name.
There's no name.
Just say that. So that was a lot to follow too. It was a lot of details
there's
in that.
a lot of details.
So I was assuming that when she said she looked at Pinterest and Jesus was holding the baby,
right,
that she was going to say the great nephew had passed.
Well, no, she said the first picture had Jesus with the baby at arm's length, and then the next picture that she saw after this incident, the baby he was holding closer. And I'm assuming she was going to, there's no other message though.
That's literally what I just said.
Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Oh my God, to all the married women out there, base, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so the grandfather.
Do you want me to explain it to you some more?
No, please stop explaining it. So the grandfather, I understand that her kids obviously got sick. And I always believe this, if you're not supposed to be there at that time, maybe at a later time, or, whatever the reason, I always have faith in that there's some people are supposed to be there when somebody has accidents or when they die, and some people aren't. And I always trust that. So she was feeling that, this was for the grandfather originally, and then the nephew that happened right after that. Mm-hmm. So I think the Pinterest isn't so important here. I think her attention is being drawn to visual pictures, so that to convey a message to her. So it really doesn't matter where she sees that.
I think she got that.
Right. I just want to explain that to the listeners.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that isn't important. You could get a vision and about something and then see it somewhere else. It could literally be anywhere, but the message is being diverted to you through different mechanisms. So I just want to be clear about that. I'm glad that she saw the picture of Jesus surrounded by the babies, and that, I think, is the other side's way of saying we have him in our arms, like we're doing what we can, or we're he's at peace with us. In other words, if that child was in a coma or non-receptive to stimuli or to people's voices,
you'd know, right?
Right. So that you would be calmed knowing that he was being loved and taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't hear the end, but I would assume she was saying when she saw Jesus holding the baby, I was thinking the great nephew had passed at that point. So she can call back if she wants to clarify that, but I'm assuming that's where she was going with this. I love that she calls it her mind's eye, because that's where visions can come. Some people get it while they're asleep in dreams. Some people have a vision in their mind. Some people see it in front of their eyes. Sometimes people see something in the physical world, an occurrence playing out, and know that that's something they're going to have to go through themselves, and they'll feel a connection to it, and it'll make them sadder than it would have made most people, because their soul knows it's going to have to take that same path. So there's all kinds of ways that the other side tries to bring us peace and reassurance that we're not alone, and that the people that we know that are suffering or that they're dying aren't alone in those moments. So that the more that we understand that, the stronger our soul gets, the closer we get to them, the easier it is to communicate with them. So for those of you out there that start getting a rhythm to it, where you're like, I get it. That's fantastic. That's called evolution. That's where you take your brain out of the mix and just let them use your brain, if anything, to flash images for you to decipher or to convey some message that's of importance or from a relative or loved one of yours. So I hope people are getting that. And the people that get hung up in their mind, in their head, on each little detail, they take forever to get to that point where they go with the flow of the whole spiritual vibe and understanding what the dead are trying to say to us and what they're conveying to us. So the faster you get on board, the easier it is get out of your own way, because you're not proving you're smarter by getting stuck in your head. There's an EQ and an IQ.
Right. And then in her case, she's recognizing the signs. She's getting better at this. And then all of a sudden with her grandfather, she didn't understand why did it not work? And it's like, wow, that's the next step that you're going to learn, is that sometimes it's out of your control and you're not allowed to, or you're not supposed to be there, or, it just for whatever reason.
Well, and it could be because there were going to be two passings in close proximity, and it's hard for anyone to tell the difference between the two vibes unless you do what I do.
Right.
And you can tell the difference between grandfather, which is where her heart was, and she wasn't even thinking of the great nephew. He wasn't even on the radar. So when they happened around the same time, of course you're going to think grandfather. I remember when my dad died, and my mom called me, we were in California for my cousin Vanessa's wedding, and she said, your dad died, and which was horrible. But and I said to her, you mean grandma? Because
that would make sense. She's much older. Yeah.
I was waiting for Grandma Jenny to pass, but my dad, it was unfathomable. Even though I knew he was going to die at 67 of a massive heart attack, to me, when it actually happened, I really couldn't accept it. And so I don't blame her. Of course, that would be just detrimental to her peace of mind. So don't beat yourself up over that is all I'm saying.
Sure.
So I hope that helped her keep in your mind's eye, getting your visions, and maybe these losses are going to lead you to a place. Perhaps she's being spiritually and mentally primed to be a death doula one day.
Sure.
And to understand these different types of losses. Typically, when people experience a variation of losses and situations, it's because you're being trained for something in the future that you're supposed to do on a soul level. An actual calling.
That makes sense. Happens all the time.
Well, why don't we go on to the next caller?
Hi, Allison. My name is Virginia, and I live in far north Illinois. First of all, I read We Are Their Heaven years ago, and I have to tell you, that changed everything. Oh, I'm going to cry. When I lost my mom unexpectedly, that held heavy in my mind. So thank you very much. I'm very ADD, so it's hard for me to get through a book, but I got through that book. So here's my question. I have an older sister. I am now playing mom because my mom and dad have both passed. I am her person. She is severely mentally ill. She has paranoid schizophrenia. She has a lot of delusions all day, every day, some very graphic, some inappropriate, some just different. And that's just her life. It's not an easy life, but that's her life. My question is, sometimes I swear when she says, oh, I talked to dad, or, oh, I talked to mom, I feel like maybe she did see my mom or my dad or my grandpa or whoever she thinks. It could easily be described as a delusion, and I'll never know because it's real to her. But I just wondered, in your experience, do you see people with mental illness, maybe especially severe, like my sister, do they have a relationship to seeing things beyond what the average person can? I just wonder. I'll never know, but I wonder. I hope she sees them. Oh, I wish I could. So that's my question. And I have to let you know, I am a Leo. Hope that's okay. All right. I love you. I love your family. Take care. Thanks.
Okay. I love that, Leo. Yes, Virginia, that's absolutely okay. It would take a Leo to actually be able to take care of a mentally ill sister. I mean, that's a big tall
heart.
order there. And her level of energy, I mean, how fabulous is she?
Right. Yeah.
Just really upbeat, and everything life is made of seems to be in Virginia's energy, which I just really appreciate. So I'm glad that We Are Their Heaven resonated with you. I'm glad it helped. That makes me very, very happy. And it's why I wrote We Are Their Heaven, was to help people to understand that the importance of each individual life in this world, what we mean to the people we love the most, that when they die, 9 times out of 10, when I was doing readings, because I wrote this book in my early 30s, 9 times out of 10, they'd say, you're part of my heaven. It's not complete until you're here. And I was like, wow, we're their heaven, and that's where the title to that book came from for me. Thank you.
Great message too.
Thank you. And so we provide versions of their heaven to them that they wouldn't have to relive on the other side, but for us. And that's how important each of you are as you do something kind for a neighbor or another little girl at your daughter's school who maybe doesn't have a lunch, and you send an extra luncheon for her. You have no idea how much you touch people, how many people you can touch in a lifetime until you die, and they're all there waiting for you to show you how that made a difference in their life. But for the people closest to us, remember when you walk out the door, when you're looking in the mirror, tearing your looks apart and being all Debbie Downer on yourself and thinking life sucks, just remember you have the power to create somebody's versions of heaven, and you must hold that in high regard and love yourself and let that part of yourself shine the way Virginia does. I really enjoy her, actually.
So can we talk about the other part?
Yes.
Just her sister has schizophrenia, but it doesn't mean that she's not also seeing her parents.
No.
Right.
Actually, I was going to explain.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It's cool. You can intro that. That's all good. So the mentally ill sister, the question is, can people with mental illness be closer to the other side? Absolutely. It's the same idea as somebody with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, where they have a weaker mind. It's easier for the other side to connect with them, which is why people who think a lot and are heady,
I'm screwed.
Pedantic, that are stuck in their head are the hardest people to get through to. And they don't seem to get that. I've heard this from that scientist on Oprah when Oprah was talking to her when I was on the show.
Her, yeah, no, she wasn't a good scientist.
And she was just like super stuck in her head about, well, I'd love for my dad to come visit me. And there would be no accessing that woman. She had no energy to access.
And she'd already decided how it was supposed to happen.
Because she's smarter than all the people gullible enough to fall for life after death. It's like, I'll be in that group then, because life after death comes a lot easier when you believe. And so it's the people that are heady or stuck in their head tend to fear death because they only believe things they can touch or see. And once you learn how to use your soul to connect to other souls, it's much easier to cross. I bring through psychics and mediums all the time. And I love it. And they come through so easily. And then I'll find out that that's what they did in life. Makes total sense.
Right.
It's just like having a regular conversation with a living person. They're so easy to talk to. So with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, any disease of that sort would be very similar side by side with mental illness, just in that there's a weakness in the brain that makes it easier for the other side to access you, because they're not being blocked by you academically and by you getting stuck on little things. They're able to sort of flow their energy into your energy and communicate with you more easily. Also, why it's easier for them to communicate with children, because children don't have any preconceived ideas, or they're very open and unafraid. And so that makes a person easy to access from the other side. And their minds, because they have a limited lifespan, are fresh and sort of still developing. So they're easier to access. I mean, it makes sense.
Makes sense.
You know, that would be a common denominator in communication would be the mind taking a back seat to the soul. And that's what all of those examples do. So yes, your sister is probably the most clear when she's talking to your parents, Virginia. The other things that she says, that's part of the mental illness, and you'll feel the difference by the vibe of what your sister says about mom and dad, because she's probably pretty calm in those moments and matter of fact that they're right there. Yeah, I saw him today. Yeah.
Right.
Mom said I'm important and she loves me a lot. You know, it'll have a different tone to it than the other things that she says that sort of can be off-putting, you know. So I hope that helps, Virginia. Keep your inner lioness roaring. And on behalf of your sister, I thank you for doing what you're doing for her. I'm sure when she crosses, she would come through and say just that to you. I know it is a sacrifice of time. So, well, thank you for being here.
You're very, very welcome.
Gracing us with your presence. Look at that. So that was a perfect question to have you here for.
Oh, because it's a thinker.
Well, I mean, you're highly academic. You're in astrophysics, and the things that you have studied and the equations that you build, I don't even know how to term it, looks like Egyptian to me. It's so foreign to me. And what I do probably seemed foreign to you in the beginning, and now you're kind of familiar with it, but you understand what I'm...
It took a long time, though. It took me a long time. Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying about how it can be hard for someone who's in their head to get out of their head. Like,
it is, yeah.
You have to think about how to do that because you're a Gemini and their motto's I think. Like, they literally have to think about everything.
Not so much with the air quotes.
Nice. All right. Well, whatever. So thank you though for giving that perspective, because I think other academics would feel comfort knowing that you're here to act as that sounding board for questions like that, which is why I think it's fantastic to have you here for the call-ins. You add a lot. So thank you. And thank you for being here to all of my listeners. I'm Allison Dubois. This is The Dead Life. And to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life. And don't forget to subscribe now to get notified of every new episode.